Yeah, I think I think we've progressed well. UNLV was our 12th actually full padded team event. To be honest with you, everything else had been either with social distancing, on air, 7-on-7, where we didn't even have offensive lines in front of us. So, I thought from that standpoint, our growth from UNLV to Utah State was right where we needed it to be, and now we got to take another big step now coming into what is a much improved and a very well coached San Jose State defense.
With you guys getting off the ground so fast with the running game, how surprised are you given the limited amount of practice you'd had with that? And then also, how did that change what your plan and your script might have been offensively?
I think we're scripted out every week to go in to try and be balanced 50-50. And, obviously the game kind of dictates which direction you go into, and the flow kind of dictates that. Coming out of the first half of Utah State, we had 22 passes and 20 runs, so we had actually thrown the ball more than we ran it. But then all of a sudden, you start to take off in one direction, and really that's kind of what happened. It kind of snowballed at Utah State for us, which was a positive thing, and we're able to get the guys going. And I'm not very surprised at all. I think Mike Schmidt and Savai Esalu do a great job up front with our tight ends and our offensive line. Our mentality is always been built on toughness and built on pride in toughness and being physical at the point of attack. Jeff Horton's had a lot of great running backs in his career, and I think you're seeing the stable kind of come together a little bit now. And then as we grow, I think one of the things you'll see as Carson grows, we will grow. And we're developing a quarterback right now, and that development process, is slow. It's great when you have a run game and offensive linemen and tight ends and receivers around a quarterback that can allow him to grow and allow him to grow throughout the course of the game. And hopefully as you see us go over the next couple of weeks, you see the progression in Carson, which in turn then progresses our passing game.
And then facing San Jose State this week, does that defense present something that you think you'll need to have to pass more, or do you just keep riding the running game until they can stop it?
No, I mean, our goal, like I said, our goal every game is to come in and be 50-50. We want to be balanced. I mean, if you ask me what my perfect game would be, it'd be 100 plays, 50 passes, 50 runs. And our goal is to be exactly right in that area every game. And you look at halves and you look at, certain halves, at UNLV, we had 49 plays, 313 yards, and we were right on track to almost be 50-50 in that mold. Now the game dictates which way you go. Sometimes their offense dictates which way our offense has to play. And sometimes our defense dictates that, and so you're kind of getting a feel for just how everything's going. Sometimes they gear up on certain things, and you just got to make adjustments. And I think that's the one thing that we're growing through as an offensive staff is making those in-game adjustments. And I think you saw a little bit of that take place at Utah State. As a staff, talking on the sideline, talking in between series, making those little adjustments that go into the next series now and create big plays back to back. So, this has all been a kind of a growth process for us all. You guys got to remember, I mean, we started this thing in January. I saw him for 6 practices. We disbanded. I didn't see him in person now until we got back together in the middle of June, almost the end of July. We disbanded again, and then now we're back together. We had 6 practices before we got told, hey, we're coming back on that Friday. And I'm learning these young men too, and they're learning me. So I think it's been good coming back together. I think it's been a good growth process, and like I said, we're excited for the opportunity we have against San Jose State.
Hey Jeff, how are you?
Good.
Did you know going into the season that you guys had the weapons to kind of bust big plays on a fairly regular basis the way you have the first couple weeks, especially last week?
I'm going to tell you, through 6 practices of spring ball, I thought there was a lot of talent on the field, yes. Now, the guy who has to get them the ball, the quarterback is the most important piece to all that because he's the point guard and the distributor of all that. And that was really the unknown coming through this. And it's still a growth process through this. So, yes, we have talented wide receivers. We have talented tight ends. We have talented running backs. We have a very good offensive line up front, very experienced offensive line up front. Now we have to continue to grow to quarterback to be that distributor and be able to get the ball to guy, at the right moment to be able to create those big plays.
Where is Carson in that development? Where have you seen areas of growth the first couple of weeks, and what do you see as what's the area you're still hammering him for? At this point.
Well, I mean, it's an everyday growth process. I can tell you that. He came out today, and I thought he looked very sharp. I thought he looked really sharp, and it's a lot of footwork things. I think what the first game he was 12 of 26 might have been. And you look at the passes that he missed, he probably should have been 22 of 26. And now you go to Utah State, and he's 18 of 28, I think. And you look at that, and he probably should have been 24, 25 of 28. But we're getting closer to hitting what's there and what's presented to him, and him taking what's presented to him, if that makes sense, what the defense has given to him. And then the unscripted plays, I'll tell you, he's very impressive outside the pocket. And I think the biggest play in his growth process was the first third down when we came out of the second half. We got the penalty. We had a nice run by Greg. We got the holding call by Billy. And yes, it was a holding call, Billy, if you're listening to this. And then Carson, we get the sack on the bootleg on the outside. And then we get a nice run by Greg to put us right back in position on about a 3rd and 11, 3rd and 10. And Carson hits Daniel on a nice route over the middle of the field, and I thought that's his growth process right there. I thought, okay, he really looked like he was settled in. His arm was nice and loose. That ball was right on the money, right on time. His feet looked good. That's what we need to continue to build, is keeping him in that type of rhythm that way, and being able to push the ball down the field in those intermediate to deep zones.
You said you want to be 50-50. Hoke said whatever the formula is for a win that day is fine. Is Carson the type that wants to push it maybe to 65-35, or does he seem pretty content to kind of do whatever?
I think as we go through the course of the season, you're going to see games where we get into knock on wood. Hopefully we don't. I mean, we got one of the top defenses in the country, so maybe it doesn't happen. But I've been in games where you got to win them in 5 overtimes and you got to score 52, 59 points. And so from that standpoint, in order to get to that type of level, you're obviously going to put the ball in the air a lot more, and you're going to push it deep a lot more. And then I've been in those games where they're grinders and you're up 17-0 and your defense is just stoning them, and you're like, okay, let's control the game, keep the defense off, keep their offense off the field, and let's really take control of the time of possession here, because we know it's coming down to being a possession game, and if we can limit their possessions, we'll win this game. So I think, that's complementary football, and I think when you play championship level football, you complement each other. Your special teams, your offense, and your defense work together. And if you're going to win a championship, every week is going to be something different between one of those three that has to step up.
Did you know, like last spring or early on, what you had in Greg Bell, or did you really not know what you had until that first game?
I got to be honest with you. When I got here in January, they had told me that we had a transfer back from Nebraska, was a really good player here in the San Diego County, had gone to Arizona Western and had gone to Nebraska, and he had transferred back, but he had an injury, he had an eye injury, and that's really about all I was told. And they weren't sure at that time if he was even going to be out for anything during spring football. We walk out the first day, and I'm seeing this young man run on the sideline, and I look over at Hort, and I'm like, Hort, who is that? And they're like, that's Greg Bell, and I'm like, oh, okay. Yes. I mean, it's not hard to tell. And in a stable of backs that have been here, I think you see he fits right in. Now, he's got to continue his progression, because it was, 25 months before he had played at UNLV, right? And so, there's a progression for him, too, of getting his feelings back, his legs back underneath him. He's very instinctual to begin with, but I think you're just scratching the surface of what you're seeing, as long as we can keep him healthy, keep him protected. And the one thing I can tell you about him, amazing young man. I mean, you talk about a practice player, just like he plays in the game, doesn't say a word, works his tail off, sticks his face in contact in practice. We go against our defense, and our backfield is in protection, and it's who's going to hit the blitzer the hardest during that time. And so the competition in that room, they feed off each other, they play, and he fits right in. And he's just an amazing young man to be around, and all of them are, to be honest with you.
You've got so many good backs, but did you figure coming into the year he's proven that he's going to be the workhorse guy, and will he be going forward?
Again, I think it really comes down to feel, and I think it really comes down to, how each one is playing. I think you saw Kagan, against UNLV, you saw Kagan get a few more carries, and then last week you saw Chance Bell get a few more carries. I think Greg is always going to be one that's going to be obviously in that mix for the top three without question. I mean, listen, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that he's a very talented running back. So yes, obviously he's going to get a lion's share of all the carries. But then you have others who, if something happens, or sometimes defensively it just doesn't line up, or they're so geared into specific things that those change of paces, and I think that's what you saw from Chance last week. Chance is a very straightforward downhill, hit the hole, and go vertically. And I think that's where you saw his style really take hold against Utah State with some of the runs, and I think they complement each other really, really well. And we're not even talking about Jordan Byrd yet, who, we have to continue to work to find ways to get the ball in his hands because of his game-breaking speed. And it's just, this has all been, really about a 3-week process here now building towards this. And I think you're going to see the expansion of the offense in weeks to come.
Of all of them, one guy we haven't seen too much of is Jasmine. Has he been dinged up, or why haven't we seen as much? And would we maybe see more this week of him?
I know he was dealing with a little bit of an injury, and it happened during camp, and that's the same thing. Some of the guys as they come through camp, especially with how quick it hit and how quick we went into pads, you get dinged up a little bit, and you're just working back into that mold, and it takes time to work back into that mold. There's not that normal time frame to heal up, to get back into game mode. If you look at it from the time we started, I don't even think right now we would be playing our first game through 29 practice. I don't even think we're at practice maybe, 15, 16, Mike? So I think, if you started from camp, we're not even in our normal 29-day cycle to get to the first game yet. But yet, we're going. And so that recovery time that you maybe normally wouldn't see, on the outside, because when you get to the first game, everybody's healthy by that point in time, you're seeing it right now. So we got some guys working through some things, and, hopefully over the next couple of weeks they get healthy and get back out on the field.